Hello, you are watching another edition of our Adventures in the Archives series. My name is Casey. I'm here with the King County Public Library and our local history and genealogy department. We are currently in our archive room, which you've probably seen before if you've watched any of these other videos. We have a fun one today for you. We're going to feature the Devou Park Summer Classics Theater Collection. This isn't a very large collection, but there's a lot of material packed into about 1 to 2.5 boxes. So I won't go through everything, but I just wanted to kind of touch on the highlights of the collection in case anybody wasn't aware that we had these materials here. It's a really fun collection about the history of the theater that used to be put on by Devou Park. So I'm going to get into it and show you some of the fun material that you can find in our collection here. And just to get started, a little bit of history on the Summer Theater Group. The bulk of this collection covers the 90s, which is sort of the heyday of the Summer Classics Theater. So from about the 1940s, that was when the band show was actually created. The WPA gave Devou Park funding to create this band show, and it was a big sensation when it first opened. A lot of the big name stars of the time came to Covington to put on musicals, performances, and it was a huge sensation for people during the 1940s and 50s. As the decades went on, the band show sort of fell into disrepair. People weren't really as interested in coming to the park for those performances, but people that ran the park said, we want to really reinvigorate the band show, get more people out to the park. So through fundraising, some grant work, during the 90s, the band show was repaired back to its former glory, and the Summer Theater Classics was brought in to drum up more popularity for the park and to bring more people back in. And it was a big success for the years that ran. So, and today, of course, you can still go to the park. You can see the Shakespeare Company at Devou Park at that band show and some performances as well. But unfortunately, the Summer Classics is no longer running. But we do have a lot of their history here in the archive, so I'm going to take a quick look at some of the cool stuff you can find in this collection. Firstly, when I was doing research on the Summer Classics, a lot of the history that I found was actually in the archive collection itself. So this folder for the band show history and proposed future, a lot of that material I just mentioned, this is directly from the archive. So as a really good overview of the history of the band show, why it was created, I didn't really know that the WPA was connected with that, so that was something new that I learned, and that's a really cool fact, I think, about that. Let's see here. Next folder, this is Achievements 1985 to 91. And again, it's actually kind of a good overview of the history itself of the Summer Classics group and the band show. A lot of that history is sort of intertwined, I found, in the collection, but again, if you're looking for a little bit of background on how the Summer Classics group began and how it became so popular during the 90s, the collection has a lot of good material on that too. And again, if you're doing any kind of research, genealogy, or archival otherwise with archive collections here, a lot of times you're trying to find people or some background on individuals. A lot of times if they're connected with a club like Summer Classics or even the organization side of the group, board meeting minutes from the group is also a really good way to find people or find more information about someone you might be looking for, because the minutes here, a lot of people are mentioned, years and dates. So again, archives, you might not think of them to be something good for genealogy, but if you kind of, dig a little deeper, just use some critical thinking, you might find a piece of research that you didn't know was available to you here, beyond, your newspapers, ancestry, things like that. And again, sort of touch on that as well. This is actually the Devou Summer Theater Cruise from 1992. Now, they put these cruises on as a way to fundraise with some of the, wealthier people in town, drum up money for the Summer Classics. But again, this has a lot of names and addresses, so you might not think to look in a collection like this if you're trying to find an ancestor or somebody in your family, but again, you might find them here if you knew that they were connected with the Summer Theater Group or, did fundraising for that during that time period. And the last two materials I'm going to show you are just kind of fun. The collection itself has a lot of different formats. There's some photographs, there's some scripts that are really interesting to look at. I don't know how people remember their lines for huge scripts in Shakespeare plays, but it's kind of fun to look at those and see how people have annotated those as well. But there are some really fun photographs of the bandshell during some performances. There's one there. This is a color one that's kind of cool, kind of a pretty image of the bandshell at night all lit up. And then of course you've got some really fun ones of some performances that actually went on. It doesn't say what play, hopefully I'm getting that in frame, but it doesn't say what play this was, but they're kind of fun to look at. And there's definitely more online as well in Faces and Places, so it does contain some photographs too. And the last material I want to show you, again, just kind of for fun, that I thought made me laugh. There's a folder here about costumes. So there's some, you know, little ads like this for people to order costumes, but there's an old theater costume catalog. And if you flip through, hopefully I'll find it real fast here. There's one that made me laugh. I thought this is like the most Covington, Northern Kentucky thing I've seen. If I can get to it, here we go. You can kind of see they have different pages. Like there's westerns, there's one for like old-timey hats. But then in classic characters, you have a nun, a monk, and then for some reason, just randomly lederhosen. So the most Northern Kentucky thing you might find, you know, nuns and lederhosen, which I thought was funny. Classic characters of Northern Kentucky. So again, just something kind of funny you might find. You never know what you're going to find in the archive. Maybe something funny like that. So again, this was a really fun collection to take a look at. We also have a couple folders in our local history files for Devou Park, which has a ton of information too about a little bit about the Summer Classics Theater Group, but also about the history of the park itself. So if you're doing any kind of research on that, that's also a good resource to tap into. So before I leave you today, I want to make a shout out to my colleague Sierra Earl. If you come to the June 3rd Summer Reading Club celebration in a couple weeks on that Saturday, she is going to have a booth there for our oral history kits. Again, we try to kind of drum up some more interest in these. We have a ton of them. They have anything that you could want for your oral history needs. Our kits are available to check out. You know, summer's coming up, a lot of picnics, a lot of family reunions, get-togethers. You know, notes are great, but wouldn't you want to have the voice of a family member on tape for, you know, forever? I mean, I have a lot of people I like to still hear their voices, but I didn't think to do an oral history. So this could be a really fun thing for your next get-together. So if you're in Covington area, June 3rd, please check out Sierra's booth and make sure to check out the oral history kits. So that's been my time. I hope to see you next month.